and to be hosting this UX UI and progressive web development engagement series where we'll have someone from the UX UI field and someone who actually was in our progressive web development course last year as well, speaking on their experiences and also open to answer any questions that you all may have. So with that being said, I'll pass it off to Jacob to introduce themselves, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Hey everyone, so good to be here and to meet everyone. My name is Jacob Hernandez. I am based in San Francisco, California, but originate from San Antonio, Texas. And I'm a senior product designer at LinkedIn, where I'm on the equity team, where we focus on creating equitable economic opportunity in the workforce. So really interesting stuff. And yeah, really excited to talk about UX, UI, product design, and to share what it might be like to be a designer in the tech field. So happy to connect, and quick plug, of course, you can always find me on LinkedIn too. After this, we can always connect and further talk.
Thank you so much, Jacob. We do have Ayman, who will also be joining us shortly. He has a little conflict with work, so he'll be on in a few minutes. But with that being said, we can kind of get started. I kind of want to start talking about kind of bringing some of these topics a little bit more real world, right? I think we hear UX UI, we hear progressive web, but what does that really look like? And what does that show up as in real life? So Jacob, what do you think people can kind of see UX UI showing up in their life every day, or like, how does that relate to everybody's day-to-day?
Yeah, well, I love that question because design truly is everywhere. You know, design is the human process to solving a need, really understanding human behavior, really understanding why things are, and building things in the built world that address those needs. So, you know, even here in my room, you know, someone designed this door for me to get in and out of. Someone designed an ability for us to communicate right now to serve a greater purpose, right? I have a reason to value that I want to communicate with people and to use a product in order to do that and to have these opportunities. We design our everyday lives. You know, when I wake up every morning, I am going through this process of saying, okay, what do I need today? And what do I need to do and create? What systems do I need to create to fulfill my needs? That's essentially the building blocks of design. It's really everywhere. And it's not just, you know, set people, you know, being designers. It's really everyone is a designer in their own way. I think where design gets really interesting and cool if you decide to kind of focus in on sort of being a capital D designer, as we kind of call it. What's really exciting is that you can really use this creative design, visual sort of lens to be intentional about what we're designing, so that what we're designing is usable, is functional, is pleasurable, is fun, is useful, like all of these things that that we need in order to build products that are interesting. So UX UI and UI standing for user interface, user interaction, and then UX meaning user experience. These two things are the tool set in order to create these kinds of experiences. And we're usually looking at digital products, right? So things that I look at on a device that uses a screen. But the exciting thing about this field is that it's not just always a device. It could be other kinds of user experiences, like a why am I blinking right now? Like a audio a device, right, where I'm speaking to it, like a home device, and other kinds of like virtual reality and other kinds of like spaces and experiences. So it really can cover so many different things. But yeah, there's so many things we can cover. I'll stop there so if we can get in it. But you can see I get really passionate about this world and how it kind of shows up. So yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And I definitely agree. I think UX UI is one of those things where I didn't realize what it was until I actually saw your session last year that you did with us, and that brought like a brand new perspective for me to really understand what it means, and how it's something that really takes a lot, right? And it's something that I'm definitely something like interested in. If I wasn't working here, I would definitely be taking our UXUI course. But with that being said, we actually have our other presenter here, Iman, who is here to speak a little bit on progressive web. Iman, go ahead and introduce yourselves, and then we can continue on with the questions.
Yeah, my name is Simon Omer. I work as a data engineer with Cabaret. Also, I want to add, I was an alum last year with TKH. I studied with them. I took a course of progressive web app. It was like software engineer, but I ended up doing data engineer and a software engineer. Basically, I'm doing both, working with Python and working with like React and Next.js in the company I work with now. Before that, I don't have any, I want to mention, I don't have college degree. I led to like, you know, a tech job, and also I'm working like remotely, full-time remotely. I'm not gonna go back to office. That's good things for me. And also my company also doesn't have like 9 to 5 job, but we have like ticket. I work against my ticket. Sometimes those tickets take like 2 hours to finish. Sometimes it's like, you know, the whole 2 days, you know, but it's good. It gives you like flexible time. And also I want to mention my salary increase. Before that, I used to work in a warehouse. Before to like, you know, doing like coding stuff, I used to work in a warehouse, and I used to travel every day like to Jersey. You know, it cost me like time and come back to New York again. And I want to say like 2020 have like a lot of change for me. COVID came in and everybody home, and I said like, let me got to coding, and I did see actually my wife, she saw ads on Instagram for TKH, and I was doing online. I went to like a boot camp. I went to a boot camp in downtown downtown in the city. I went there, like they do have like a free session. I went there, and the free session, I had my laptop, I don't know nothing, and they give me like a bunch of document just to read, and I was like, I don't know nothing, like what's going on there, like I don't know, nobody explained me anything. And after that, like it was like 2 hour session, and after that they need me to sign up with them. It was costing at that time, I think it was like almost $18,000 to $20,000 for 3 months. And I decided not to, because the session wasn't helpful to me. Like I don't understand nothing. I said like, probably it's not. And my wife, she saw the ads in Instagram for TKH, and I say like, oh, let me experience it. Before that too, like I never done, like I came from abroad, like to United States, and in the big, like when I went to college, the culture wasn't fit to me, like, you know, like it wasn't like helpful to me, like I'm just new here. And that's like a first time I finished like a whole course with TKH. My team was like in the same classmate. It was like so helpful. We helped each other, we learned a lot. We went to a hackathon doing through like TKH. We went to a hackathon for Citibank. It was like a lot of people there with like computer science degree. We challenged ourselves. We was like 5 people in the team from the Bronx and in New York, and they don't have like college degree. We did took like the hardest challenge there, and we win the first place for the hackathon. They give me certificate, I add to my resume. And also we did a lot of fun projects. I did like projects with Bloomberg, and also like basically my resume like was stacked with projects. And after that, I led to like one of my teammate, like classmate, got me to Google like apprentice fellowship for Google Cloud. And after that, I got to like Kiberry, like the company I work with. I was an intern with them. And after that, I transitioned to like a full-time. And at that time, I do have like 3 offers sitting there, and I'm trying to guess like which best for me. And I took like the best offer for me, and I'm here. That's
We
like
love
kind
it.
of, yeah, that's kind of my story.
No, we love to see it. And it's definitely one of those things, right? Like I've said, right? Trust the process, right? I think what I really liked about most of what you said is, right, you chose what was the best fit for you. You had these opportunities, but again, it always comes down to what is the best fit for you. So thank you so much for that. I'll jump into our next question. What does your day-to-day look like, right? And what do you think are some roles and job opportunities in the UX UI or the progressive web field?
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started. Yeah, so as a UX designer, as a product designer, and I'll sort of interchange between UX and product design. You'll probably see those titles on job postings too, but essentially, product design is UX design. But in UX design, we're often building for digital products, and we're building within product teams where there's a product manager who's directing the product, they're setting the vision, the roadmap. You have your engineering team where they're thinking about the technical constraints in the code and all of the feasibility behind it. And then the UX team and the design team, product team, really thinking about the user experience, how it's going to be used, and the way in which it's going to look and feel on an interface. So for me, what my day-to-day really looks like is interacting with all of these different types of collaborators, and together really addressing like what is it that we're trying to solve and what products do we want to build in order to address a need that our users, our members have, and as well to address a business need as well, to address like, why is this good for our business to do this? So you're sort of in these hats of, what's good for people and how people will use products, as well as what is good for the business that I'm working with. So what the day-to-day looks like is working with those teams and doing a lot of research. A lot of our research looks like talking with people, really getting to know, how people behave, why they're using something. I work at LinkedIn, so we're thinking a lot about how people are finding and looking for jobs, how that's connected to what they're passionate about, where their skill sets are at, creating product experiences that really meet job seekers where they're at. And so we're often thinking about, what people are thinking about in the hiring process, as well as what companies are thinking about as well. So it's really doing a lot of research on understanding the whys, how that process works, becoming sort of like a mini expert in that space, because if I am someone who's to design within these spaces, I want to really understand how these things work, how it's connected to these larger systems at play, to economic opportunity. And so that's kind of the first part of our process. And then it depends on kind of where we are at it with our projects. There's also the part of the project where we're actually going in once we've solved, like, this is what we want to build, this is what we want to solve. Then we go into these later stages of the process, which are much more about design and iteration, and looking at the actual solutions as they will be experienced on a user interface. So that'll be sketching, working through how screens might look, what components we need, what interactions we need in order for a user to complete what they need to complete. And we call those different sort of sketches, or how we're thinking about the interface, as different levels of fidelity. So a low fidelity sketch is just like super high level, conceptual, how components will come together on a screen for someone to use it, all the way to high fidelity, which is what we're used to seeing as people who use probably products on a day-to-day, right? It's like how it will actually be experienced and how it will actually be coded. And so that's when we really start to work with engineers, although we're working with kind of engineers throughout the entire process, to really talk about how do you build this from a coding standpoint? How do you, make sure that the way in which we're thinking about the design is actually is translating to the coded implementative experience. And so it's highly collaborative. We're often trying to level set on the right language, learning a little bit of code ourselves to really understand how engineers speak and kind of vice versa. Which is why I love kind of being in these conversations too, because cultivating design in relationships is a really big part of our job in order to create quality products. So yeah, that maybe not what I'm doing today. I certainly wasn't doing all of that. That's certainly what my sort of larger day-to-days might look like. Yeah, so that's the first part of the question. Could certainly answer the other part, but love to pass it over to you, Ayman, to speak about anything too.
Yeah, for progressive web app, basically like UI UX make my job like so easier. I want to mention that because the style is right there, and they use like tools, Figma, like XD, and those like property is right there. They told you, oh, that's the color, that's the like code, whatever. They make my job like so easier for me to build like quickly things. And also like part of my day is like we do have a scrum every morning with the team, discuss like the ticket they give me and what's up to it, things. And also part of my job also like interview new candidate for like a job position. That's one thing. And also like learning new stuff. The company we learn like I have to catch up with a lot of stuff like for senior position, but I have to learn those stuff. That's part of my day too. Like I learn like new stuff every day, and it's just keep learning. Yeah, that's my day-to-day like work.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I want to ask you both, when did you realize tech was something that interests you, right? I know some people, sometimes it's something that people will realize at a very young age, and sometimes it's not, right? So I kind of want to ask you both, what piqued that interest, and how do you know that this was probably like the career choice for you?
Yeah, so I entered tech through design. I went to school for communication design. And so that was a graphic design discipline, was always really interested in visual communication. But some of the earlier sort of formative years when I was, a kid, some of the products and experiences I loved using were things like, I don't know if anyone ever remembers Digital Blue, or I guess we called it DigiBlue, which was essentially like this like camera device that you could record videos and make your own like home videos. But then you got this software where you got to edit videos, you got to like add cool effects, and you could like pretend like things were exploding. And I just love that kind of immersive experience, really creating stories, using a tech product to do that, and then going and using a user interface software to kind of create that whole experience, which was a movie, which was a video. And it was both fun and fun to tinker with and understand like how to use it, but then also to really think about like, oh, what do I want to create? Like, what do I want to like put out in the world? Because this is also about expression. This is also about what I want to say and what I want to do. And so it sort of all clicked for me when I sort of pivoted into the tech space with design. And also there was just an incredible amount of opportunity, and there still is, which is really exciting. Design really becoming incredibly important in the tech world. It wasn't always like that, the way we built products traditionally. We weren't so much thinking about the usability in the early days, and we were kind of building things very quickly. And now that we've really considered, oh, we should really think about the way in which people and humans are interacting with products and experiences, that's what really, justified and kind of brought design on the table. But all that being said, yeah, I think it was, just identifying as like a young creative who, had a lot to express and saw like the power of technology and its ability to amplify what we're able to do to put people even more centered, right? I think there's the kind of interesting arguments and theory we can say about technology superseding humans, but that's not really the case, right? It's really about how technology can be used to harness human potential, for us to collaborate better, for us to solve some really messy problems and challenges and systems that need fixing, that our futures and right now holds. And technology can help us do that. So and design can help us do that. So that's part of what how I've experienced what motivates me in tech and design, and yeah, remembering that I loved like creating videos and like creating things on a digital interface. That was definitely what cultivated the love for it.
For me, I'm gonna say, what got me to tech? Okay, I was in a warehouse. I did open a business before. It cost me a lot of money, right? That business lost money. And I say, like, what is the next idea for me? I'm sure now it's tech popping, like those apps and ideas and stuff like that. And I look at it like I have an idea to build, but I don't know how to code, right? I did look up for Upwork freelance to see like someone to help me to do those things. Wait, it was more expensive, like it's so expensive. And 2020, when COVID happened, I said like, oh, let me learn, and start to build those things. And I find out any idea you have, it's gonna cost you just a server to do, and it's so cheap. Rather to like open like a big giant store, taking place, workers, stuff like that. You can build like those, like programming those like problem or ideas, and with like so cheap, and you can run your idea to it, and it's not gonna cost you a lot unless like it's popping like so big. And after that you start hiring people stuff. But that's what got me to tech basically. And the cool things about it too, it is like, for example, if I don't have a job, like I'll be coding some ideas, just anything in your head, like any idea, like through tech, like you can do it.
Knowledge is power, 100%. I think this kind of segues into my next question. What did your pathway to where you are now actually look like? I know you kind of hit on, both of you, what kind of peaked it for you, but what was your like actual pathway from like the moment you were just like, this is going towards tech, to kind of where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, like I was mentioning earlier, design was kind of my pathway into tech. It actually, so my first company I worked with, we were called Thicket Labs, and we were a early sort of tech startup that was creating technology to help people thinking about complex social systems better see the systems in order to change them and to have like great social impact. But we also worked with different organizations, and I was sort of brought in as someone who was going to be a visual communicator and designer, but also design workshops and ways for who we worked with to use design thinking. It's some kind of a methodology we use in the design field to solve and address the problems that we wanted to solve and address. And one of the orgs that we worked with was the Knowledge House. So this was, probably back in 2015 at this point. And we, worked with some of the recent grads from the program who were in an entrepreneurial program. And we came in and we used design thinking to find out, what was it that these early entrepreneurs wanted to create that address the needs of their own community. And so we sort of collaborated on that together, and we used design, but we also used tech. And this was before I sort of got into product design and UX design. But what we came out with was a mentorship program, because the big need that we saw was early graduates connecting to meaningful meaningful connections and really having authentic connections with people who are in the workforce already. And so we thought of this mentorship program. So this was the early days of what I think there still is a mentorship program in the Knowledge House. And that actually really inspired me to start to think about technology. Our team then started to build an interface for how we can better connect early graduates and tech professionals. And that's when I started to kind of get more myself into product and UX design and technology, being able to make these connections in really interesting, powerful ways. And yeah, I guess I'm reflecting on that right now, how the Knowledge House was very influential for me into kind of pivoting into like, wow, like this is a great example of a community coming together, really thinking about, what is a need that we want to address, and then using technology as a way to amplify that process. And I was like, I want to do more of this. And so when I stepped away from when it was time to leave Bickett, that's when I started to sort of transition into product design. And now working at LinkedIn, I now get to sort of work on building technology and thinking about how like a professional network and the technology built behind it can power really meaningful connections between professionals, between job seekers, between people who are looking to build their professional brand, from anyone thinking about economic opportunity, and for the means of like creating meaningful impact. So and technology is really at the foundation of that. So yeah, that's a one part of the journey for me. I got into tech.
Yeah, for me, it's also, yeah. I start with TKH, basically, and also like I want to mention that in tech, like it's a lot of way to get to tech. It's not just like web dev or UI UX. It's have like cloud, have a lot of stuff to like tech. Yeah, like from TKH, I want to mention too. I never have a resume, right? TKH, like they have like part of their like classes, they have like a career class basically. They fresh up like my resume, add those projects, and yeah, they help you, like they walk you through. And also you're gonna have like mentor. Mentoring is so good. I realized that like mentorship, I didn't have mentorship before when I was in TKH, but I do have a mentor from Google, and I did see the value of mentorship. Basically, it will something it take you a year to do. With mentorship, like it will take you like one day. Like one time I was working in a project, I have a mentorship. My project is growing, it's so big, and I do like microserver in the backend, and he told me, oh, you can do that in the front end. If he doesn't mention that, it will take me a long time to figure it out. But he just mentioned to me, and right away I figured it out and changed my projects to that. And that's just cool for like mentorship. And also I want to mention not just like mentorship, and also like the community in TKH, like very helpful, like very, very helpful. I was with my classmate, like we are like someone like working LinkedIn, one of my friend working LinkedIn, one of my work with ClassPass, and some of them work, like all of them in tech, but we're still like friends. Like after we meet at night, we have like Discord together, see like what new technology there. I want to mention is like, if you have like surround with good community in tech, you in there. And I think TKH, like, it will give you that. I wasn't have that before TKH. All my friends before, like doing other stuff, like, like warehousing, other stuff. When I got to like TKH, I built this community. I have friends. Now, most of my friends is like, working technology, like coding, like data engineer, software engineer. And I think that what keep me in track, like all my friend around me does that, I have to do that.
Right, 100%. And I think that's something that's super important for people to always realize, like the influence of people around you, right? And that's actually like my next questions, right? Have you had mentors in this field and what was it like? And do you have any advice for people to secure mentorship when it comes to tech?
Yeah, such a great point. Mentorship is so key, and mentorship is also foundational for community building, right? I think there is a difference between connections that are perhaps transactional versus connections that are about meaningful, authentic community building and saying that, hey, we're in this together, that, you succeeding is also my success as well. And this is a collective. And this isn't just a place where only some people are going to get the opportunity and other people are too bad for them. Like, no, that's not the kind of worlds that we want to create. We want to create ones of meaningful connection, authenticity, and sort of collective betterment. And mentorship, authentic mentorship, is such a foundation for that. And so, yeah, for me, finding mentors has been really, really important. And sometimes those mentors are also peers, or also just, finding people who are also going through similar experiences and just getting to share that together. Whether that's some of the, unspoken hardships of being, a queer person of color in the tech field, which is predominantly, very white-centric, as professionalism being in the US, very white-centric. And some of the ways in which we can talk about some of the lived experiences of, breaking into this field and really coming into one's authenticity and power. And that is really important, to build that with like-minded mentors and community and peers and mentees as well. And then talk about the discipline, talk about the field and where it's headed, and to get real, true, authentic feedback as well. They call it kind of fail culture. I'm not sure, like y'all have heard that, but fail culture is kind of rethinking this idea of failure being a quote unquote sort of negative, bad thing to always avoid, like avoid failure, and being like, actually, let's lean in on that's part of the process, is going for something and seeing how it aligns with my goal, and having mentors to help track that and guide that and give really great feedback is a gift. That wasn't always easy. It's sometimes hard to get really like true feedback, but then on the other side, of course, is also the art of giving constructive feedback that is about, again, growth and learning and collectiveness. And so, yeah, my path for that has been staying very humble and sort of grounding myself in the reality that I have something to give, my unique sensibilities and who I am as a person. I have something of worth and something that is needed, and that I am curious and want to learn from others, and I want to connect with others, and yeah, build connection in that way. So yeah, that's kind of how I think and feel about it.
Yeah, for me is, I'm gonna say like tech in general, like their community, totally different than other. Also, like they share a lot of information. Any problem there, you're gonna find it in the internet, like it's solved, like by the community, and trying to help other people to to achieve like faster. And in mentorship, you're gonna find basically I had like a Google person like mentoring me, and he was doing that like for 15 years, you know, like I got to that, like, you know, like information available to me. And also I had a mentor, like, you know, before like I got to a full-time job, my manager used to work with NASA, and he was mentoring me through the internship. You see, like I'm saying, like those big company, and I got them like so easily. I don't have to, like, you know, fight like a lot to get to those information, but it was like helpful, and they're happy to help, like to help you. And I think with tech is mentorship is like their core stuff, like, you know, it's easy, like not the other, like I did like courses before for like stock market stuff. Like I used to have to pay for those information, but this is free, like, you know, they're good with like with mentoring to helping other all the time. Like they reach out, they don't like told you like no, like I still like with the Google program I left, I still have the contact with my mentor. We meet like every 3 weeks. I keep that with me, that connection, to see like my update, what I did learn. Actually, we share a doc together and see like my project, what I work with. We still like, you know, keep working on that. And yeah, in tech, like mentoring, sharing information, I think you're not gonna find it in another like sector, like another community, but in tech, like this is open for anyone.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've definitely noticed, just because on top of everything, tech is always changing, right? So there's always going to be new information, as you mentioned earlier, right? Part of your job is to actually learn and learn new things, because you have to keep up with everything. As you know, tech is a field that's going to continue to grow, especially with this pandemic. It's really highlighted that for everyone, that this is where everything is really going. So it's really important to have people where you can ask those questions, grab that information. And like you said, that's sometimes not something that you can always find in every sector. Some of my last questions are, of course, where do you kind of see this field going? And do you have any advice for anyone who's really interested in getting into tech, whether it's UX, UI, or progressive web?
Yeah, so what's exciting is that, as everyone knows, tech and technology is ever evolving and always changing. And there are just so many new kinds of products and businesses and technology that are continuing to just develop at exponential speeds. And what's really exciting about the field is that that means that we get to continue to create and recreate the standards for how we build quality products and design, and really adapt to change and really adapt to the unknown. That being said, there's just so much opportunity in this space, right? It's really exciting to think about one day maybe we won't be in, you know, I have my phone here, in this kind of look down culture where we're sort of looking down and tapping at a screen. Maybe one day we're going to be looking up more, and things are going to be in our sort of built environment more, and we can interact with them in that way. Maybe there's more automation. Maybe there's more ways for AI and machine learning to activate ways in which we interact with technology. All things are ever changing, and so that's just, you know, kind of embracing the unknown and the excitement, as well as being critical about how these impact us as humans, is something that we think a lot about in this field and where it's headed. Yeah, and I also just think that there's not only like new products and businesses that are going to be created, but we also have the ability and the power to create our own companies and be entrepreneurs and experiment and tinker, and to really find different technologies that really meet the needs of humans and how we're changing and evolving. And the tech space is one space to think about it. Probably one of the most exciting places, I would argue, and there's a lot of other exciting ones. I would imagine if we were all wanting to get into astrophysicist things or science, like those are also interesting industries, but tech really brings a lot of that together too. And so, yeah, some exciting stuff there. In terms of like, how to break into it, we talked a lot about connection and mentorship. That's always a great place to start. It's just being curious and making connections and learning what it's like. I mean, everyone here today made an amazing step by just grabbing this call and being curious and just learning. But we only have our perspectives, and there's so many other perspectives out there. So just be one thing I urge is just be super curious and know that you have something really unique to bring to the field, and there is a place for you and opportunity just for you, whether that's out there as a job post or something you create on your own. For designers, I just want to quickly say that there's a really great platform out there called Amazing Design People List. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that, but it's a really amazing sort of platform for like designers all around the world who are open to people just creating spots on their calendar to have informal or formal conversations about design, about what it's like to work in design, all the way to like, hey, I'm ready to get this job. What is it like to work at Google, at Nike, at Samsung, any of these companies that they work at. So Amazing Design People List, ADP is a really great free source to build connections. And then of course, LinkedIn, although I'm not going to spend a lot of time plugging that because that would feel kind of funny, but you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Consider me a new connection for you. Yeah.
I want to say, yeah, tech is growing. Also, it take a lot of job out, but it create a lot of opportunity too. And I want to mention that it's never late to break to tech. It's never late. I was like 29 when I joined to tech, and I have now like a full-time position. Never late for you. And also like, yeah, it is growing, and I think it's gonna grow more, like a lot more, because I did see, like, for example, let me give an example. The Easy Pass, right? Before, like, they have people take those tickets, whatever. Now just camera and but we have to transition ourselves to tech. I know it's like some jobs lost, but it's a lot of job create and good paying job. It's 6-figure. You start from 90, 80, like you're not gonna start from 30, 40, like it's like good paying job. And also when I mentioned, I did see like someone say like, oh, the technical assessment, right? Before I start, I don't know nothing about like coding. I don't know like what is variable function stuff. I was lost, but I got to there. You will learn, they teach you everything, and you will get it. I think, and I'm sure, you can do that, because I came from English is my second language, right? It's not my first language. And I'm doing coding, I understand everything. And I think for you, it's going to be like quickly. And also, as I say before, tech is big subject. If like web progressive, it didn't work with you, you're going to find another, like, probably UI UX, probably another thing, cloud security, like other stuff there, around there. But I'm sure you can do it. I did that. It doesn't need like math logic or like crazy stuff you see like in the internet, like, like crazy people. It's not like that. You will learn it. Before, I don't know nothing about that. And now have a full-time working real projects. Yeah, that's I want to add to that question.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Definitely something to think about is Ayman was literally in our class last year, right? At this time, he would be sitting in class, and now here he is speaking to everyone about opportunity he's had and how that has looked for everyone. So it's really important to keep in mind, right? A lot of it is being curious, as Jacob said, right? And also wanting it and knowing that anyone can do it, right? It's not something that you have to know from very early on, as you can, but also you can decide that maybe today and be like, actually, this is a moment where I know this is what I want to do in tech, and I'm going to start. And this is a great place to start, right? This session is really great to kind of understand and know, is this the right fit for me? And then also think about, is the knowledge house the right fit for me? That being said, I will say, disclaimer, no one here is being forced to say this, but why do you think the Knowledge House is a great place to start, whether it's for UX, UI, or progressive web development? We're not paying them to say why it's a good idea. As you heard, Jacob has been a huge supporter of the Knowledge House, and Iman has also been in our program himself. So just want to ask you all about your perspectives and like, why do you think the Knowledge House is a great place to start?
I think culture, the Knowledge House have people look like me, right? That's one thing. So like that's things people live in the Bronx, you know. Usually, like you see in those company, people live like in high areas and stuff like that. That is cool, and the support too. Like, you know, when people like look like you, understand you much better, they know your background, and they walk you through a lot of stuff. I think that's the fact about the Knowledge House. Like, you cannot find it in, you know, you find it other place, but that's like the core things is like diversity, and, you know, people look like me. And now I think most company now is adapting like to, you know, people from low income area, and moving like diversity more. And I think the Knowledge House have that experience already. And I think it will work with you guys as like it worked with me. I did mention I went to college. I went to John Jay. I didn't stay like for one semester there, to be honest. Like, I wasn't fitting there. You know, I just came in from like abroad and see like, you know, I don't like people not talk to me, and like it's not like that. And I left like from the first semester. And I tried a lot of courses, but the first time, like I finished like 9-month courses, the Knowledge House. I did see people look like me. We become like so friendly and walk me through everything. And I stayed there for the whole year, basically.
I mean, you can speak about it the best, just having been a part of it, and all of that, just so well said, +1. It just makes me think too that, you know, we really are moving towards, as an industry, more towards skill-based hiring, which means that you don't absolutely need a degree to get a job and to find opportunity that's really meaningful, and especially in tech, and really focusing in on your unique skill sets, and yes, learning the ins and outs and the technical pieces and the structure and the process, but also learning about, you know, what, like I said before, what uniquely makes you a contributor and an individual contributor. And what I know of the Knowledge House is just cultivating that expertise and that technical expertise, but really focusing in on your unique skill set and having a community to do that in, with like-minded individuals and from people from your community. And love that it's also just expanding now even more so in the digital world, and really focused on access that isn't just place-based, but also across the country and maybe even world one day. So just so much goodness, and really excited to be a part of this community.
Thank you so much. So those are all of my questions. I really want to thank you all for your transparency and really pushing your perspective forward. I know that's something for me, is always being able to see from other people's perspective and how their experience have gone. Sometimes it's something that really pushes me and motivates me. So I really do appreciate that. Jacob, I know you wanted to show some things for us. You can go ahead if you want to go ahead and do that now. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So we thought, you know, in these last few minutes, it would be cool for those who are interested in the design piece, just to quickly see some visuals. What I thought I could do is just quickly show my portfolio site. A portfolio site is usually what you create to show some of the designs that you've worked on for the hiring process. And just wanted to quickly show you like some of the things that not only I've worked on, but some of the things we think about in the UX UI process. So one of the case studies that I worked on, this was a few years back, so not related to the work I'm doing right now at LinkedIn, but was creating a board management UI for an iOS mobile app, and really thinking about, you know, the holistic experience for how a board member was going to use this product called Boardroom to manage the way in which they interact with their other board members. And so, you know, what we're thinking about, this is just the final high fidelity screen, kind of thinking about the way in which someone would interact with it, the styling, the way in which the components are made, and just showing, you know, kind of what that end product looks like. But even before thinking about what it's going to look like and feel like for the user, a part of the process is also going through defining the different steps for how we get to creating that end product. I'm not going to go through all of this, but just wanted to quickly show, you know, some of the things that we think about, you know, creating what we call user personas. And we talk about, you know, each of the people that are going to be using the product and some of their responsibilities and their stories. And you're collecting this from user research. This was, you know, before the pandemic, so doing more in-person brainstorming and coming together with other designers to brainstorm, you know, what were some ideas for how to get here, to really map out the process, and then distilling that in a user journey map. This is where we talk about all the different steps that someone would take when using the product, but also outside of the product as well. And so this is also something you're mapping as a user experience designer, is really that that end-to-end experience for how someone would use your product. I'm just going to quickly come down, and then you're kind of going through the sketch phase where you're sort of sketching out the different types of screens and the different kinds of, you know, user interactions. It's very messy. It can, you know, a lot of nodiness, but this is a great way to communicate early on kind of what you're thinking. And I remember bringing in engineers at this process and really talking about, okay, are we able to do this? Like, how does this translate to code? And then doing some whiteboarding as well. And then getting into Figma and actually starting to design this out in kind of a medium fidelity way. This is a wireframe. So these are like early designs for how the app would start to look like. And then you're going in and really understanding the flow, how all the screens are interconnected. You're really thinking about the information technology and how someone would essentially complete a task in this flow. And then the very end is the high fidelity mock. So really going in and looking at the styling, how it will translate on the interface. And this is also a really fun part because you really get to be creative around, you know, what styling you need to use that really translates to a good, pleasurable, you know, delightful experience. So yeah, I just wanted to show you all kind of like a very quick process into, you know, how you get to some of these end screens and what you do as a designer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know we're almost at time, but I do want to see if anyone has any questions specifically for Jacob and Iman. Definitely feel free to drop those in the chat. But if you have any specific questions on recruitment, I can stay after and hang back and answer those for you all as well. But if you have any questions about that for them, about their experiences or anything like that, definitely feel free to drop them in the chat. Any advice for anyone who is still deciding which learning track to choose? I'm curious about UX UI now. Can I ask you, Liliana, like, what are you like? Are you like more leaning towards UX UI now or leaning away from it? And you can feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh, I didn't even know about UX UI. I had to actually Google it when I found out. So I'm trying to figure out, because I put in my application already for web design because I have a little bit of experience, but this has given me more of an opportunity to hear from those who are doing it right now as a profession. So I want to know more, like if I'm able to do that, because I'm also concerned about the technical assessment. So I'm curious about it, just because I've like been on YouTube and like trying to Google and learn more about it before like really fully committing myself to a learning track. So I'm kind of in between like web design or UX, because I'm not sure like which path. So I'm curious about both.
Awesome. What I will say is don't feel pressure to feel locked in and on track now. I know you may have applied for progressive web, but our process is actually to also expose you to the other tracks as well. And then at the end, of course, all coming together to see if that's the right track for you. So I will definitely say, hopefully the process as you're applying through does provide you some insight on that. But Jacob or Iman, do you want to provide any insight as to maybe like why they should do progressive web or why they should do UXUI?
Yeah, I can quickly go. I do have to just head out in just a second, so I'll just leave off with this. Going and looking online, there's so many great resources, YouTube, Google search, Medium articles. I think, thinking about UX UI, asking yourself, am I interested in really looking at human problems and really thinking about an end-to-end experience, and then thinking about how that translates to a user experience and a design experience. If any of those questions are starting to resonate with you in some way, I think that UX UI would be really interesting to consider and to explore and to sort of ask yourself some of those questions. I think that we as UX UI designers, we're not necessarily coding. So, just for my personal experience, coding is amazing. And that's obviously what so many of us will be doing, but it's also a way in which you're kind of in the tech field and not necessarily sort of going in and doing a lot of the technical coding. So, for me, that was always like a way to be close to it, but not necessarily doing that part of it. So maybe starting off in coding, but then getting the UX UI is also a good place to be. But our technical requirements, so to speak, have to do more with user interaction and the way in which components, which are like buttons and text fields, work and interact. And so it's like a little bit of a different sort of skill set, if that makes sense. But yeah, happy to chat more about it one-on-one if you want to connect with me. But I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. I have to head out, and hope to connect soon.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Thanks for joining us and always supporting the Knowledge House. I really do appreciate it. Have a great night. I mean, if you have to hop as well, I do appreciate you joining us as well. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have alumni back in the room because they bring a different fire, of course, and have a really great perspective as to what the program is.
Yeah. To choose like web progressive or UI, it's I think up to you, but UI UX also, they do, I want to mention that they do a lot of research for like the design, how it look like. They're gonna get like a lot of information from other user, like, oh, this button is much better, this button, that, and typing a lot. For me is, as a developer, for me, I like the not a lot of soft skill. I like hard skill a little bit. Yeah, I just got that button there. I don't have to do a lot of research, but they told me to build it like that way. I build it, and also like in progressive web, it need a little bit of the logic, but if you know the fundamental, like you're good. Yeah, and I think see like what it fit on you. Like if you like problem solving and also like you like logic, or you love like designing, drawing stuff, if you like that, you can go to UI UX, but progressive web as well. And you can do both, to be honest. Like you design the stuff and you build it right away.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I know we're at time, but I will definitely stay on if anyone has any questions about the recruitment process or application process or anything else. I can stay for a few minutes. I just want to say thank you again to Eamon so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you sitting here and talking to us tonight. So thank you all. And if you don't have any questions, definitely feel free to sign off. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.